October 1997. A quiet engineering office in Toyota City, Japan. A mid-level engineer named Tishi Nakanishi sits across from senior management, hands trembling as he slides a folder across the table. Inside, dyno charts that shouldn't exist, failure reports that were never supposed to surface, and a single recommendation written in red ink: immediate production halt advised. The engine in question, the 2JZ-GTE, the same iron block that would become legend, the same power plant that tuners would push to 1,000, then 1,500, then 2,000 horsepower. The engine the world calls Unbreakable. But here's what they don't tell you. Toyota never intended it to be indestructible. In fact, they were terrified when they realized what they'd accidentally created. Tonight, the untold story of the 2JZ-GTE, an over-engineered mistake born from corporate paranoia, saved by a scandal and nearly killed before it ever reached American soil. This is the shocking truth. Toyota buried for decades. The Lexus problem and Toyota's existential crisis. To understand the 2JZ, you have to go back to 1989. Toyota was riding high, dominating reliability charts, and crushing Honda in sales. But they had a problem. A humiliating, expensive problem named Lexus. Chapter 2. The Lexus crisis that changed everything. The LS400, Toyota's flagship luxury sedan, had just launched in the United States. On paper, it was perfect. The 1UZ FEV8 was smooth, refined, whisper quiet. Critics called it the best luxury car ever made, and then, 3 months after launch, the wheels started falling off. Literally, defective brake light switches, faulty cruise control modules, and worst of all, a wiring harness defect that could cause the entire electrical system to fail without warning. Toyota's response was unprecedented. They recalled every single LS400 sold, all 8,000 of them. Technicians were flown to customers' homes, cars were picked up on flatbeds, some owners had their vehicles replaced entirely, no questions asked. The recall cost Toyota over $100 million. But the real damage was to their pride. Toyota's entire identity was built on one word: reliability. The LS400 disaster shattered that perception at the worst possible moment, just as they were trying to compete with Mercedes and BMW. Inside Toyota City, panic set in. Executive meetings turned into interrogations. How did this happen? Who approved these parts? What else are we missing? The company that prided itself on Kaizen, continuous improvement, had been caught shipping garbage, and the engineers knew it could destroy them. So they made a decision. A radical, expensive, borderline insane decision. Every new engine in development would be over-engineered to the point of absurdity. No more cost-cutting. No more good enough. If there was even a 0.01% chance of failure, you redesigned it twice. Enter the 2JZ-GTE. The engine that was built for war, not racing. The 2JZ-GTE wasn't designed for tuners. It wasn't built for drag strips or dyno queens. It was engineered for one purpose: to survive the worst-case scenario Toyota's executives could imagine. Picture this. You're driving a $50,000 Supra on the Autobahn at full throttle, 155 miles per hour. It's 110 degrees outside. You've been running hard for 30 minutes straight. Your oil is cooking. Your coolant is borderline boiling. And you're not letting off because you're late for a meeting in Munich. That's the scenario Toyota engineers were told to design for. Not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly for 200,000 miles with zero failures. So they went nuclear. The block was cast iron, not aluminum. Heavier, yes, but virtually indestructible. The cylinder walls were thick enough to bore out significantly, giving tuners room to increase displacement. The closed deck design meant the block could handle absurd cylinder pressures without cracking. The crankshaft was forged steel, not cast. Massive main-bearing journals, cross-drilled for oil flow. This wasn't a crank that would flex or snap under load. This was a piece of machinery you could build a bridge with. The connecting rods were forged as well, with a weight tolerance so tight that balancing was almost unnecessary. The pistons were low compression from the factory, 8.51, which left massive headroom for boost. And the head gasket, that legendary metal head gasket, was clamped down by a girdle-style plate and a dozen studs each torqued to within an inch of its life. But here's the secret Toyota never advertised. The 2JZ-GTE was over-engineered to compensate for something else, something they couldn't control: fuel quality. The gasoline conspiracy. In the early 90s, Japan had some of the cleanest, highest-octane fuel in the world. Europe had strict standards, but America, America was a crapshoot. Depending on where you filled up, you could get anything from 87-octane swill cut with ethanol to 93-octane premium that actually met spec. And Toyota knew that American buyers, the ones dropping $40,000 on a twin-turbo Supra, weren't going to baby their cars. They were going to fill up at whatever gas station was convenient and then beat the hell out of them. So Toyota did something brilliant and borderline paranoid. They built an engine that could survive detonation. Most engines, when they knock, they die. Pistons crack, ring lands fail, head gaskets blow. It's catastrophic. But the 2JZ-GTE was designed with so much thermal and mechanical overhead that it could absorb knock events without grenading itself. The thick cylinder walls dissipated heat. The forged internals absorbed shock. The conservative tune pulled timing before things got dangerous. It was an engine built to survive abuse from people who didn't know or didn't care what they were doing. And for the first few years, that's exactly what it did. It sat in Supras and Lexus SC300s, making a modest 320 horsepower, sipping premium fuel and boring owners to tears with its reliability. But then the tuners found it, the modification that changed everything. By 1994, the Supra had developed a cult following, but it wasn't the engine people were excited about. It was the chassis, the styling, the fact that it looked like a spaceship and cost less than a Corvette. The 2JZ-GTE at 320 horsepower was considered adequate. Not special, not exciting, just another turbo motor in a heavy GT car. And then a shop in California did something stupid. They cranked the boost, the Supra's factory twin-turbo setup, a sequential system with a small turbo for low-end response and a larger turbo for top-end power, was limited to around 10 pounds per square inch of boost. Conservative, safe, boring. But someone, no one remembers exactly who, wondered, what if we just turned up the boost controller? So they did. 12 psi, then 15, then 18. And the engine didn't care. It just made more power. A lot more power. At 18 psi, the 2JZ was making close to 450 horsepower on the stock block. Stock pistons, stock rods, stock head gasket. Nothing broke, nothing failed. The engine just shrugged and kept running. Word spread fast. Internet forums exploded. Supra owners everywhere started cranking boost, and the dyno numbers kept climbing. By 1996, single-turbo conversions were hitting 600 horsepower. By 1998, built motors were cracking 1,000. By the early 2000s, the 2JZ had become the stuff of legend, the unbreakable engine, the iron block that couldn't die. But back in Japan, Toyota was watching, and they were not happy. The engineering deep dive nobody talks about. But let's pause here, because to truly understand why the 2JZ became legendary, you need to understand what Toyota actually did. The specific engineering decisions that made this engine different from everything else on the market.